everyone. So today at Växjö World in Istanbul, I'm joined by Brett Weihart, the Director of Regional Airport Partners. Thank you so much, Brett, for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having us along.
You're welcome, thank you. So could you please start by introducing yourself to our audience, please?
Yeah, I'm an Australian expat living in Europe. Been doing that for 30 years. We're loving working in the aviation industry, working with both regional and larger airports. Love the game.
Yeah.
Probably be in it till the day I die.
Oh, nice. So how are things going for Växjö Småland Airport at the moment, and is business going strong?
Yeah, so Växjö Småland Airport is one of the airports where I spend a lot of my time. It's a small regional airport. It obviously got hit at COVID like many other airports did, but it's sort of bouncing back internationally. It's bounced back fine, but domestically and charter has still got a bit of room to go. But it's heading in the right direction.
Sure. Okay, cool. So how's the airport been since the pandemic, and how has it since reached its post-pandemic numbers?
Yep.
And if so, what was the driving force behind it?
Yeah, no, it hasn't got back to those numbers because some destinations haven't come back online, which were previously, for example, KLM flew 5-7 days per week, and they haven't come back after COVID.
Yeah.
So some things have disappeared, but then Norwegian have come in, added new capacity. Ryanair have started London, for example.
Yeah.
So things have gone and things have come.
Okay,
Yep.
nice. So what is your passenger demographic, and what type of travel is the most important for the airport?
Yeah, so it's got a domestic component, which is mainly business people.
Yeah.
It's a small part of the traffic volume now. There's a quite large charter market, and then there's the low-cost carriers. So we're the only airport which has the three low-cost carriers in Norwegian, Wizz and Ryan in Sweden on a regional basis. So they go to bucket and spade and sort of city break destinations as well.
Yeah, okay, so you'd say it's more like leisure?
Yeah, so it's a more a leisure charter market with a business component, but it's smaller. That's a smaller part of it.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
So with the above in mind, how is your passenger experience geared towards this, and what type of food and beverage, retail and facilities do you offer?
Yep. So it's a small airport, and so obviously the offering isn't large.
Okay.
So you have a restaurant on airside, you have a restaurant on landside, you have some tax-free offerings, but it's all pretty relatively small, which means that you're not making a big amount of money off that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you have your car parking and others sort of try and balance up revenues.
The essentials. Yeah.
Yep. The essentials.
Yeah. So what are some of the new and emerging commercial markets that passengers are interested in that you've noted?
Yeah, so the ones we've just got on board are, example, Malaga in Spain. So Spain is a big bucket and spade. A lot of people have places down there.
Yeah.
So they're looking at even places maybe like Barcelona,
Okay.
Palma on a maybe year-round basis. It's only on a short-term basis at the moment.
Yeah.
Everyone loves the big cities like Paris, London. So it's pretty standard, I think, on what people are asking for.
Sure.
Yep.
So having worked across multiple Scandinavian airports, what have you noticed in the differences of airport operations, and are certain airports more in demand than others?
So Scandinavia obviously has a very big winter component,
Yeah.
so operations in a winter landscape are quite different to somewhere further south.
Yeah.
It's a lot more demanding during the winter months and a lot more costly as well.
Yeah.
Within Sweden or within Scandinavia, the operations are pretty similar from airport, whether it's actually big or small,
Yeah.
in terms of how they cope with things. In terms of the ownership of an airport, whether it's public or it's private, obviously a private airport has to go positive after a certain amount of time. They can't run with a loss. Basically, all regional airports in Sweden make a loss these days.
Oh, okay.
But they have many other functions. They're there for ambulance.
Yeah.
They're there for firefighting.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of weigh up all those things when you're
Yeah.
looking at the benefit of having an airport.
Understood. So what are some of the commercial interests that pop up in your discussions with regional capital city airports? Are there any differences that private and public airports have?
Yeah, well, that's sort of what they're saying there. Is that the commercial is just basically that a small airport, unless it's probably over 400,000 passengers per year, it probably will struggle to make a profit.
Right.
Because it doesn't have the volumes.
Yeah.
So it needs to get over that sort of threshold to make money long term, and then obviously need that money for capital investment. So it's a hard one. There are very few private airports in Scandinavia. I built one a couple of years back, Scandinavia Mountains Airport, which opened in 2019. So that was completely privately owned.
Right.
But the majority are either council owned, regional owned, or state owned.
So it's like diversity of like ownership.
Yeah, it's a diversity of ownerships, but a lot of them it's state or government money, which means you have state aid conditions to have to comply with.
Got it, understood. Yeah. So keeping staff well-being is important to ensure a happy workforce. In your role, how are you especially working to keep your workforce energized? And are there any like certain tactics that you do or enforce?
Yeah. So obviously I have an Australian background, and I'm living in Sweden at the moment. So it's a different sort of setup in terms of how the workforce is part of the group. So it's very much about empowerment, getting employees obviously to work a lot with the things we do. And obviously keeping that interest there, that's incredibly important. So they see the goals we're aiming for at the end of the day, I mean, part of that process and working towards a goal.
Understood, yeah, cool. And for my final question, I'd like to ask you, what are you noticing of workforces as generations change? Are expectations of work in aviation changing?
I think if you look at aviation workforce, the turnover is very low. So it's maybe 4 or 5% turnover, and at regional airports maybe even less. If you look back to the past, people are extremely loyal obviously in their industry and love their industry, as bit as I said in the beginning there, and want to stay forever in that industry. I think younger people coming through today, it's probably not quite the same, that they're maybe not as long term as what perhaps the older workforce was.
Well, that was my final question. Thank you so much, Brett.
Thank you very much.